What's up everyone, Clayton here, and we're back with another Elder Scrolls 6 wishlist. This is a video series I do every Thursday that we discuss some of the stuff we want to see in the next Elder Scrolls games. I take 3 comments from you guys, or maybe add in some of my own ideas, and we talk about them for about 5 or 6 minutes. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started with the first one from Noodle Dial. I believe that's how you say that. He says, a Thalmor questline. We shouldn't always make them the villain, and it would be awesome if we could side with them rather than butchering them for once. So yeah, I've talked about in past videos that I think the Thalmor are actually going to be the big bad guys, or the big villains of Elder Scrolls 6. I think they were supposed to be in Skyrim, but some of their quest lines got cut out, so they weren't really the big bad guys that we really wanted them to be. But yeah, the option, like in Elder Scrolls games, you always have options to decide if you want to be the good guy or the bad guy. I really think that if they do add the Thalmor questline, which I really think they will, because a Thalmor will be the bad guys, according to me, and that's the only thing that matters, really, right? But yeah, I think that the option to be able to side with them or against them would be really important. It would just be kind of difficult to see how the game plays out. For example, in Skyrim, you have the Civil War quest lines, so I don't really know how they're going to add that to the next game. For example, if you played for the Stormcloaks and the next Elder Scrolls game, they say the Imperials won the Civil War, it kind of would piss you off since you're like, not in my game, the Stormcloaks won, the Stormcloaks should be in control of Skyrim. So they might have some difficulties there with letting you side between both the good and the bad, which is kind of difficult to do as a game in general, because it leaves a lot of loose ends, and you don't know really how to close them if you want to go on to the next game. But the option to be able to play against them and with them would be really important, and really good for Elder Scrolls games to be able to have those options like you used to. The next one is from Will Nicholson. Yes, I believe that's right. He says, underwater combat, even if it's with a dagger. I miss it from Oblivion. And I didn't really play Oblivion much, but a lot of people talk about underwater combat as like something that's really important for them. To be honest, I think if they want to do underwater combat, I think they need to add it kind of big, and maybe even have different weapons for underwater combat, maybe like spears or something like that. My mind immediately goes to Guild Wars 2. If you guys don't know what Guild Wars 2 is, a MMO RPG type game that you're able to fight underwater, but you need like a aqua breather to be able to breathe underwater, and then you have specialized weapons to be able to use underwater. These weapons have their own damage stats compared to your, the staffs or the swords that you use above ground. So I think the underwater combat could be a thing, but if they're gonna do it, they need to make it good. Because if it's just boring and they make parts of the game have to use underwater combat, a lot of people are not going to like it. For example, another thing, Soul Karen, I really hated in the game, but they made you do that if you wanted to do the Dawn Guard DLC. So if they make you do underwater combat and it's very bad and not enjoyable, then there's going to be a problem. All I say is that they have to make underwater combat enjoyable, and even like he said, if it's with a dagger or a sword, just make sure it makes sense and it's smooth and it's not like clunky to be underwater swinging a sword. That's all I ask, and underwater combat could be really cool, but they would have to put a lot of work into it, and they might want to put other work elsewhere with maybe the storyline, since Elder Scrolls or Skyrim wasn't very good for the story. It was pretty short, so I think they might want to focus more on that than actually the underwater combat, but it would be really cool to see. Our last thing I want to talk about comes from Stormcloak Brute. He says, I think they should add a new attack moves where you can do uppercuts and direct stabs, so it'd be a better combat mechanics than they had in Skyrim. And I agree, the combat mechanics in Skyrim are kind of lackluster. You pretty much just swung your sword at them, you flung spells at them. You didn't really have any skill gap, I guess you could say, between the people who stab people this way and stab people this way. There's not really anything different. What he's saying is like have different stabs, but I kind of take it as they have different weak points. For example, in Skyrim, if you shoot a guy in the head with an arrow, I think, as long as I understand, that if you shoot him in the head with an arrow and shoot him in the head in the foot, they will both take the same amount of damage when they get hit in the head and in the foot. There's no really like multiplier for it does more damage if you hit them in the head or the foot. And I think that they should have something like that where you hit the weak points of armor, and it'll make the combat a little bit more fun and rewarding if you hit one of these things. And like he says, direct stabs. If you maybe get a stab or a slice in a area where they're not as much armored, it would do way more damage. But if you hit them like for say like right in the chest plate of like a giant heavy armor piece, you're not going to do as much damage and maybe the blow is more deflected. I think that'd be really cool, but they would just have to balance it so big tanky guys wouldn't be able to just mow you over. But different combat mechanics to make it a little bit less simple, because Skyrim was pretty simple in its gameplay mechanics. You pretty much just swung your sword, you fired spells at them. There was like illusion and things like that to make it a little bit more dynamic, but just stabbing people and you're standing there slashing at them isn't very fun. If you have something that you can actually, aim for, like aim for the head, do more damage. I kind of think of Call of Duty where they have hit point modifiers. So if you hit them in the head, it does 1.5 times damage. You hit them in the chest, it does like 1.25 damage more. And if you hit them in the legs and stuff, it just does the base 1 damage to them. So yeah, I think that would be really important to have the combat mechanics a little bit better. And I think that's about it for this episode of the Skyrim wishlist, or Elder Scrolls 6 wishlist, sorry. And if you guys want your comments featured, make sure to leave them down below. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week on the next episode.